Hello, audiophiles of the internet, and welcome back to Audio 46, your headphone destination. I'm Franco, and today we'll be doing something a little bit different. So, in all of my reviews on the channel, I always encourage everyone who can to come by our store on 46th Street to try out our new headphones for themselves. I acknowledge that not everybody can do this, of course, but when you get the time or the opportunity, it is such an important part of the process. There's no better way to determine if a headphone is right for you and the purposes you want to use it for unless you listen to it. So today, we're going to go over some things you can do when testing your headphones to make sure that you are absolutely getting the best fit for you. This is 5 things to do when testing your headphones. So, tip number 1 is a real simple one, and that is take your time. As with anything, you're going to want to make sure that you have an ample amount of time to test your headphones. For one, you want to make sure that everything is comfortable and fits the way it should. This is absolutely paramount. You also need to give yourself enough time to wear them to see if they do actually fit and make sure they don't get uncomfortable over time. Sometimes you think something fits really well right away, but if you give it 10, 20, 30 minutes, then you notice it starts to get really tight, it starts to pinch, and that is not going to do you any good, especially if you want to wear these for a long time. So you have to give yourself enough time and make sure that they are comfortable at first and that they stay comfortable. This is important. Aside from comfort, your ears also have to be able to get used to a different sound signature. A lot of times we get used to what we've been listening to our music and our podcasts on, and it takes a little bit for our brain to reset, go back to factory settings, if you will, and be able to hear something new and hear the differences in the detail, the signature, and the overall quality. So basically put, give it some time. Number 2 is listen the way that you are mostly going to be listening. Okay, so what do I mean by this? Well, it is certainly tempting to grab a pair of headphones off the rack and want to put them through their paces by playing it through really high-powered amps and playing really huge high-res audio files. But if this is not mostly how you will be listening at home or on the go, or however you're going to be using your headphones, then this is not going to be the most helpful. This is a good way to evaluate their overall performance and their features, but it may not be the best way to test if they are going to be a good fit for you, if you're not going to be using your headphones that way. If you're looking at an active set of earbuds, then don't be afraid to move, jump up and down, do some jumping jacks, maybe even pop a squat, we don't mind. You have to really use the earbuds in the way you're going to use them. There's nothing worse than falling in love with a really high-end pair of cans at the store and then forgetting that you used a super high-powered amplifier to use them, and now when they're at home powered just by your phone, it's not quite cutting it. Number 3 is use music and tracks that you know well. I really recommend that you listen to tracks that you know really well, music that you know inside out. If you have an internalized image of what a recording sounds like and you've memorized every detail, then you will be much better suited to compare different headphones and analyze the differences between them. What part is emphasized? What part sounds louder or quieter? What details that you maybe overlooked before are now super present? What frequencies jump out at you? These are the small kind of details that can eventually make a huge difference when it comes to which pair of headphones you actually want to buy. The best part about this tip is that most of the work is probably already done. Take your favorite songs that you know backward and forward that you have memorized and compile them in a playlist so that you can put them together and maximize your listening. This is also one of the best things to interface with different audiophiles about. You can always keep building out your library with different suggestions for tracks and things to listen for within them, and build your knowledge of those tracks over time so that you can incorporate them into your own testing rotation. So if you have a track that you absolutely swear by for listening to headphones, then drop it in the comments below and tell me why it is your go-to. I always love to check these out and see what you guys are using and see if I can fold them into my own rotation. Tip number 4 is use different styles and genres. Without a doubt, it is paramount that you listen to what you like. If you're a hip-hop head, a hard rocker, if you like folk, whatever it is, you definitely have to listen to a lot of that to make sure that you are going to get the best performance out of the headphones you are using. If you're going to use your cans in a home setup to play games or watch movies, then yes, absolutely cue up some Netflix or bring up some gameplay. But all that being said, I still do highly recommend that you listen to a wide variety of styles and genres when you are testing your headphones. Different styles of music can highlight different weaknesses or strengths in certain recordings of those genres, and even if you always listen to the same thing, it is always better to have more information than it is to have less. It can be really fun to experiment with more idiosyncratic tracks, things that you might not necessarily listen to just for pleasure, and examine how those elements are shifted through different sound signatures, different drivers, different technology. For example, me personally, I always recommend that audiophiles fold some Latin or salsa music into their listening rotation. One, because it's great, but also because recordings in this genre usually feature such a wide array of textures, timbres, instruments, etc. All in one song, you can have vocals, hand percussion, metal bells, metal shell drums, pianos, guitars, and this is all usually without a bass drum, so it opens up a lot of space to hear the interplay between these different textures. So Just something to think about there. My fifth and final tip is an important one, and this is don't always be seduced by the higher prices. So here's the deal. If you have done your research and saved up and you're ready to upgrade to a really high-end premier set of headphones, then absolutely do it. But for anyone on a budget, it is always important to remember that you cannot necessarily believe the hype and always equate more expensive with necessarily better. That is not to say that you don't get what you pay for. Of course, I'm not going to compare my $10 earbuds to some $2,500 in-ear monitors, but the elements that make a great headphone are simply very subjective. This means that there are good options at every single price point. You just have to know what it is you're looking for. From packaging to design to building materials to interior technology like drivers, membranes, cables. The value of that price tag can be placed in many different areas, so it's just important to make sure that it is in those areas that is most important to you. Whether you're lucky enough to come into our store on 46th Street in New York City, or you're borrowing your best friend's favorite headphone model to take for a spin, remember these 5 things to maximize your testing and make sure you get a pair of headphones that is absolutely the right one for you. Do you guys have any more tips for testing headphones that I didn't mention here? Then drop them in the comments below. And don't forget, tell me what songs you're listening to when you're testing out a new pair. That's all for today, guys. I'm Franco with Audio 46, your headphone destination, and I will see you very soon.